Welcome to the behind the scenes video for our other video, Failure to Launch, about the soldier from Team Fortress 2 exploding into itty bitty soldier bits. This is the first of 5 10K week videos in celebration of reaching 10,000 subscribers, and we will be covering the basic rules of shot composition that we used in this sketch, along with some of the effects. Recently, we've been able to focus more on making our sketches look good, one of the benefits of spending 2 weeks on a project instead of 2 days. If you compare this one to some of our videos from just a year earlier, you can see a pretty dramatic difference, and it's because we spent that year relearning how to use some simple tricks of the trade more effectively. Things we were definitely aware of, but didn't really prioritize. The most well-known concept in shot composition is probably the rule of thirds. If you spent any time on a beginner's photography course or on Reddit, you've probably heard of it. The idea is that your image is divided into 3 segments, vertically and horizontally, and the most visually interesting places to put your subjects are where those lines intersect. Once you're aware of this technique, you'll see it everywhere because basically everything you watch adheres to it. As a result, breaking the rule properly can draw extra attention to your subject and provide additional subtext about the scene. In the last shot of Failure to Launch, we place the engineer and the medic on each vertical line, but the soldier right in the center as we track him through his one successful-ish jump, making sure the focus is totally on him until he exits the frame. Often used in conjunction with the rule of thirds is what the people who name these things call leading look, which describes how a person's gaze holds visible weight. To show what that means, we have this close-up with the soldier positioned on one vertical line and the space where his eye should be placed pretty close to one of the upper intersections. This shot looks visually balanced, and that's because we've made sure the soldier is looking toward the empty side of the frame. Psychologically, that makes us perceive the left side of the frame as containing something in the same way that the right side of the frame contains the subject. Compare that to this shot with the subject facing away from the empty space, and suddenly the image feels too heavy on one side, which may be what you want. You can do that, there's no camera police. Your shot composition should add to the story you're trying to tell, enhancing the mood, adding to the comedy, or just making the audience uncomfortable. And since we're dealing with film, adding movement to your composition makes it that much more effective. In fact, you're often selling the medium short if you ignore the opportunities that a mobile camera gives you. This is something we're still working on ourselves. Now on to the effects. This will just be a general description of how I accomplished each one, because if I describe them step by step like a tutorial, this video will be way too long. For the cloaked spy, we used 2 separate pieces of footage. One shot of everything but the spy, and then a steady shot of the spy in front of a green screen. I then used a combination of green screen keying and frame-by-frame rotoscoping to cut the spy out of his footage. Time-saving tip: nobody likes rotoscoping. It makes even the strongest VFX editors quit their jobs and run for the hills. How do you do it quickly? Don't make it perfect. Just use the roto brush in After Effects, make it look pretty good instead. It usually goes by so fast that people won't notice anyway, especially if your character is going to be a half-invisible spy. Once the spy was cut out, I used that footage as a reference for the displacement map effect, which warps our base footage into the shape of the reference. For additional definition, I set a copy of the spy layer to a blending mode called Add, and then animated the opacity as he moved. For the jib explosions, we start with the footage of Ethan running and jumping. I used a few seconds of the empty background plate to make him disappear at the right time, then piled on some stock footage from Video Copilot's Action Essentials pack, which is what we use for basically everything. We should probably buy some new stock footage. For the rocket jumps, I layered on some fast explosions, smoke clouds, and sprays of blood, and played with the colors and blending modes until it matched the original footage. A lot of the soldier bits were just cut from a freeze frame of the original footage, but for pieces that were obscured, I used green screen elements of each body part that we shot during production. Then they were all individually animated to make sure each explosion looked unique. Don't forget that motion blur. Finally, for the actual rocket jump, we again start with some base footage. This one contains Medic and Engie's entire performance and a carefully timed camera tilt. Then we shot 2 green screen elements of the soldier, one of the initial jump, and one where he performs his mid-air motion in place as we move the camera to mimic the perspective of the previous shot. Ideally, this would be done with some sort of pre-programmed crane arm, but we're some kids with a YouTube channel. Our latest piece of equipment was a metal stick, and that broke while shooting this video. In After Effects, we key out the soldier and animate him to match the base footage, making sure that he launches himself out of frame just long enough to change from one green screen element to the other. If you would like us to elaborate on anything from this video, please leave us a question in the comments, and we will be happy to answer you. Tomorrow's behind the scenes video will cover what to do if you would like to add special effects to your own work, but shot everything completely wrong, featuring our Portal video, Mr. Johnson. Until then, thank you for getting us to 10,000 subscribers, and have a great week. Ta-da!